part 2 of what are you doing with your life? I left off on sewing the sleeves together. So what I'm doing now is I'm gonna iron everything. That way it seems kind of flat and the seams are flat on top of each other. I just want to iron stuff, you know? So I ironed each of the pieces and now I am sewing the seam that goes underneath it closed. So the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna pin the white lines together. Why am I laughing? Oh my god. So you're gonna pin the white lines together. That way those match, the seams match, they're touching. You don't want your white line to be way over from the others. That way it looks weird on your shoulder. You want them to match. So I did that on all four of them. Ugh. And took out that part of my sewing machine so I can do the sleeves. Look how slowly I'm going. I am stretching the whole time because I want it to stretch again. That sweet stretch. This I am sewing at 1/2 inch. Looks so lovely. Wow, look at that. Oh my god, yeah. So while I'm sewing, my cat likes to sit right on the chair behind me just to give me support. He's so sweet. Look at him. Oh my goodness, so sweet. I love him. Oh, the ears. So I used cardboard and I tried to make it into a pattern. And I got some copper wire stuff so I can make the ears. Me holding it up to my head, trying to compare it. So this is the neck part, and I just took the same shirt that I used to, get the holes for the sleeves and kind of trimmed off the neck. Whoo! Second biggest mistake. This is the second biggest mistake that came out of making this sweatshirt. I highly recommend that if you are making a hood for this, make it big. Make a big hood, because there was a problem. There was such a problem, and I hated myself for this. I took my Totoro onesie, and I was like, I put it on. I'm like, I like the hood of this, so I'm just going to trace it out and cut it out, and it's going to be perfect. It wasn't perfect. It was perfect right up until a certain point. Oh, it just wasn't good. I had to add like an extra section. In the end, the hood ended up looking really cute, so it ended up being nice. So I finished mapping out the cardboard thing. This I have no specific lookup pattern for. I just kind of like drew it and kept holding it up to my head to see if it looked okay. Now this I drew a line down the middle, basically because I was going to cut down and sew it, because on his hood there's a little seam line going down the center of the little bunny ear, and I wanted that little seam line look. So when I did it, I just kind of like set it down and then moved it over. So now what I'm doing is I am pinning the middle parts together. That way I can just re-sew them, but I added extra space to that just to be sure. I have 4 pieces in total for front and back, 2 ears. This one I didn't do an extra inner lining on because I was just going to stuff it anyway and put metal in it. There we go, look at that. Oh, and the hood. So that was the issue. See, I totally mapped it out and I was like, the hood's gonna fit perfect. It's great. And I'm just pinning the outside line because I'm gonna sew that line first on the hood. So I'm sewing the ears together and I'm doing it right on the edge of the presser foot instead of at 1/2 inch, just presser foot edge. Yay, all 4 pieces are sewn together and now I'm just, again, pinning. Nobody wants to see you pin stuff. I'm just pinning the outside edge on. There again, just right on the edge of the presser foot. Now for the points, I just went straight off the edge for some reason, because I felt like it. Wow, and the second ear, just as lovely as the first, if not exactly the same. Skirt time. So for Anime Boston, I was dressing up as Akano from High School DxD, and I liked the skirt. So I just took the skirt and used it to map out my DEKU skirt. It ended up being like super perfect. I love the skirt. So I have no measurements for this. Just find a skirt that you like and just trace it out. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm mapping out fabric again. Oh, right. Okay, so what I'm doing is after I did that, I'm folding it in half on the line that I just used. That way I can just cut out the exact shape of the skirt. There. Oh, look at that. It ended up being so nice. I picked 2 lines, because lines on the skirts too, right? It has to be perfect. And just tracing out the edges of that. Again, 3 inches. I think, did I do 3 inches? I think I may have done a little bit more for the skirt. Because the skirt was going to be flowy. So I'm pretty sure I did 4 inches. That way when the skirt was flowing, you could still see the line on the side. And oof, yes. Cutting that off the edge. And just, again, I'm about to start pinning. I can feel it. And, yep, there it goes. Pinning the white lines onto the skirt. Lovely. So the skirt part didn't really matter that much. So I just did 1/2 inch on one side and 1/2 inch on the other side, because that way I could, you know, fix my life. Here I am making a waistband for the lovely skirt. The waistband ended up coming out way too big because I stretched it while I was making it, which I kind of regret. So I just took a bobby pin and just pinned the skirt just a little bit smaller when I wore it. I didn't feel like putting a zipper on the skirt. Right when I was doing the skirt, this dived heavily into cosplay crunch time, which is just a great time to be in when you forget what you're doing and just you're trying to finish everything. And this is when I started forgetting to film things. Like, I was doing other things while I was doing the skirt, and I'm like, forget this. I'll just film myself doing the skirt and then I'll work on the jacket. So here I am pinning the lining onto it. And I just kind of folded it in and then folded it over again. That way there wasn't any seams, and it was like super nice and cute, and it felt so nice when I was wearing it. So again, yes, cosplay crunch time. While this is going on, I didn't want to film like the issues I was having, because I'm like, nobody needs to see me struggle to make that weird square shape in the middle of his jacket. So I had went over the lining and I like sewn it in on the inside. So when I flipped it out, it didn't end up looking as sharp as the points that I'd wanted it to look. It looked so terrible, and it was because I cut out that square shape. Just leave it in. So I had done it on both those parts, and I was like,
"何?"
this is
"そう."
stop. Like I
"そう."
did.
"そう."
Did. So what I did was, instead of seam ripping it, I just did it on one side on the inner lining. So I was like, okay, I'll use this side as the inner lining, and then I'll try again on the other side. So on the other side, what I did was I just took it and I folded it over the top of it, and I kind of pinned it. That way I could sew the edge on the outside, and I used white thread for that part, and you could just see the thread on the outside. And it ended up coming out really nice, because that way I could actually sharpen the corners of it. And I did the same thing. I cut a hole into the white section and then just kind of folded it over in on a new blue square, and then sewed it onto the outside. That way you can see a white thread line. It was a little difficult because I didn't cut out enough space. Like, if I had known that I was gonna mess up this bad, I would have cut out more space for it. Okay, so here I am sewing the lining on. I kind of sewed it real close. I was looking at it just to make sure it was like super close to the edge and it looked nice and cute. Here's the part where I'm sewing right on the edge on the top. So I am looking very closely because I want the thread to be as close as possible, because there wasn't that much room. Look at me, trying to fix my mistakes. Everything's gonna be okay. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Don't panic. So I'm sewing kind of like in that little ovalish hole that you see inside of the presser foot. I'm sewing it right up against that. That way it comes out as close as possible. I wish I had done this from the start, and it ended up looking like so nice in the end. Look at me struggling to do this. It was hard. It was kind of hard doing that part. Wow. And I did it along the whole edge down to the bottom. So from underneath the armpit all the way down to the bottom. Okay, after I sewed both of the things down, it was bumpy. It was real bumpy. So if you have stretchy fabric and things get bumpy like that, just spray it down with some water. spray it with some water, flatten it out as much as possible, and then just take your iron and just iron it down. It helped so much. It was so bumpy before that, and obviously it was still a little bit wobbly because I had issues with how much seam allowance I had, and I didn't have enough, and it came out a little wobbly, but still so much better without the bumpiness. Like, nobody cares, nobody's gonna look, it's okay. If you're ever afraid of somebody looking and they're like, oh my gosh, somebody's gonna think my seams are wobbly, if somebody points it out, they're an baka. Okay, you look amazing. Here's a weird video I took on my phone. I had gotten copper and it took me a while to kind of map it out. Cosplay crunch time. So I just kind of wrapped it around itself and it was really heavy. But I got it into the shape. I kind of just like bent it into the shape that I wanted and then re-wrapped it around, that way it stayed secure. So I put the the little ears over it to make sure that they fit, and then I set the hood on a pillow and then set the headband onto it. I made the headband because I wanted the ears to stick up. I didn't want them to kind of fall over and flop around, and I didn't want to have no ears at all. I wanted them to stick up like his did. That's why I got the copper in the first place. And I wanted the headband so that way when I moved my head around, it would stay up. They wouldn't kind of like lean over just a little bit. I wanted them to stay in the same spot. So I mapped out where the headband should be on the hood, and then I sewed the hood, and I sewed the lining. Oh my gosh, we're about to get to a video that I sent to my friends when I got real angry about the hood issue that I had. Okay, so this is my hoodie, right? Looks cute, right? I did that. I haven't put the zipper on, but the problem is, see, look at that. Look at that inner collar. I sewed one side of the hood to this side, one side of the hood to that side, and then I sewed those two together so the collar is in there. Looks amazing, right? So the problem is, right, still looks okay, except when I put the zipper on all the way up here, I am literally dying. You can't see my hair, the hood is touching my face, you can't even see my collar. Why is it that tight? Why did I make the hood this tight? What am I supposed to do with this? There's not enough room. I was so angry when that happened. I have a couple of pictures. I ended up just making another section for the hood. That way it ended up being a lot bigger, and then you could see my hair. This is the wig I got. Super nice wig. It looks so cute. I like the color, and I wanted the hood to be big enough that you could actually, you know, see my hair on the inside and see the collar. Because when Deku takes off of his hood, he has a collar underneath it. But I sewed it in a way that when I take off my hood, you can't see the seams. They're all in between the inner lining and the outside part. And I sewed that on before I had sewn on the zipper and the bottom part. That way everything matched up nicely. After this is when cosplay crunch time hit real hard. And I sewed the edges of my sleeves, I sewed the bottom, I sewed the zipper on. A big problem I had with the zipper was after I sewed it on, it was very bubbly and bunchy in the front, which kind of bummed me out, but it still ended up being okay. I totally sewed the hood off the camera because that was such a problem. There was a hole after I sewed the ears into a hole I made in the hood. I stuffed it with some polyfill stuffing. They were a little bumpy, but it was okay. So that's the extra thing I made into the hood part. I just kind of cut a little ways down and added an extra section into the hood and then re-sewed it. That way it looked nice and I had extra space in the hood. As for the leggings, I just put on a pair of tights and mapped out how high I wanted the leggings and then sewed the white lines to it and sewed the edges to it. I sewed them on there first and then I redid the lining of it. That way, I don't like my thigh-high leggings to fall down. I wanted cute thigh-high leggings. And again, the lining of the skirt. Some random videos I took of the wig I got. I ended up taking black Sharpie and coloring my Deku wig, like each piece by piece, front and back. And that wig ended up staining the inside of my hoodie at the end. And my forehead. So, there you have it. Female Deku cosplay. Thank you so much for watching this. Whatever fail of a tutorial, fail of a cosplay vlog. I have another one coming soon of a suit I made, and I promise that I am trying. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. If you want to see more pictures, just check out my Instagram. I hope you have just a lovely day.